Hi there. Hello. I thought it would be fun to do a little impromptu landscape inspired painting and to do it in a sketchbook. So, one of the things I've been doing more this year and really enjoyed doing more of is to play with the idea of thumbnail sketches. Very small paintings that take no time to do. When I say no time, that can be done in a very quick and impromptu way. It can be done on location, partly in location, and then a color to be added. And it's really a nice way to work with specific color combinations, color prompts. And then more recently, I started to have them in little sketchbooks, so it's not so many on a page. And I'll show you them to you now. And I also started to use ink blocks, like stamping blocks. These are different ones. This was actually done in the landscape retreat in Portugal. It's some of the projects we did at that time. And I want to show you just playing with the idea of a very, very simple landscape. In fact, it's going to be really starting with a sky, a blue sky, and then adding foreground. And I'll incorporate some of the colors from this week's prompt, but I also want to show you what I mean by working in a very small scale. So this is a sketchbook. It's one of the sketchbook I carry with me. I always carry a sketchbook. These are landscapes I've made, so they're not perfectly chronologically done. This was done in Arran. This is Isle of Arran. And you can see having the sky added there, the blue sky, and then the brown. And this was done by using these Inktense blocks. I lie, not Inktense, the ink blocks. Sorry, I use both, but I'll explain to you in detail with the blue and the brown blocks. Let me just get those. So these are ink stamps, what should I say? So there are different brands, but these are quite good in that they last a long time. Let me see what else I have here in terms of using the blocks and then adding color to it and more shapes to it. It doesn't just have to be landscapes, of course. I just use it as a starting point, and sometimes I will add a lot of color on top of it and just work on top of it again. And this is a nice way, for me, it's a really good way to not have to finish something and then move on. I love to come back to it, and at some point I know I will add a label to it, and in this case, something might start off as a landscape, and then it becomes something different. This is a demo I did a while back with one of the Coloricombo colors. And you can see as well, what I've done here is to use a stencil to block off areas. And this was using inks. This I did actually very recently in South Africa, drawing birds. And I actually even drew a very quick outline of a lion. This was just a cliff close to us. But let me show you what I mean with the blue sky, starting with a blue sky. So that's a small book. I'm going to do it a little bit bigger. I'm going to do it in this book, where I've already done the stamping and it's dried. It doesn't take a long time to dry, but just put that down. I did that a bit earlier. And what I want to show you is the idea of working in a really small scale. And you can do it in different ways. So you can either have a frame around your So blue sky, the area that you want to work in, and you can block that off. You can draw an outline. Or you can just do it, go more freestyle. One idea is to take masking tape and block it off. Mine's not really gone right by the line. Let me just do that again. This is a masking tape that is really suitable for paper, and it's not going to damage the paper. It's a TESA, TESA. There are different brands that work. I quite like, there's a pink one as well. I think that's also TESA. And what I like about that is it doesn't draw your eye so much. When you have this bright yellow, it can sometimes be a bit of a hindrance. So there's my blue sky, and this will be my landscape. So for those of you who didn't yet see the colors today, the color prompt, let me show you quickly. So I had the blue sky blue, and I explained the reason for that is because we've just come back from South Africa. So this was the photo that I use as my reference, and the colors are these. So it's a sky blue. This is definitely a bit more turquoise. Excuse my color not quite matching the color there, but I can work on top of that. I've got colors that can tone it down a bit. Taupe, spring greens, and grass green. So I will, without further ado, play by creating the landscape. I'm going to do that by creating some green. This is where the Inktense block come in. So that was done by taking the Inktense. That was done by taking the ink block and dragging it across horizontally. And this is an Inktense block stick. And I'm adding a bit more color there. You don't have to wet it, but I'm going to, because it fixes it and it makes it sort of more, it makes it stronger, makes it more intense. What I'm also going to do is, because I want to work straight on top of it, is to blot it. And I just use a tissue to do that. Because I just want to create a green background. Got this blue, which is much more the color of the blue sky blue, which I can do as well. I can just add a bit of that, but not too fast. The ink from the pad will not shift. It will not dissolve. I think it's an alcohol-based ink, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not entirely sure. But so there you have your two sides. And now, because it's slightly damp, I'm going to use, again, an Inktense pencil. I'm just going to draw lines on it. And what I'm doing here is to work with a kind of a contour. And then, so my paper is it's not a watercolor paper, it's just a sketchbook paper. Then I can look at vertical lines. When I add that, you have again, just very simple. You have these shapes which indicate trees. And what I'm doing here is I am keeping it really simple. That's the objective of this exercise, is to not overthink it. The brain will see a landscape because that is what we are what we see around us. If you have this horizontal line and more lines, and you have these vertical lines that are trees, but I'm not making them, they're very stylized. But by doing that, I create this very simple landscape. I can, where it's drier, I can add, this is a luminance pencil. I can draw as well, add more green. Don't want to make it too green. I like it being a bit more subtle, but I'll add a bit more green in sections. And then I should really wait for it to be a bit drier. I can add more. I can add more pencil marks, but I want to finish this one quickly and I want to move on to another one. So this is just to explain very simply how you can create a very simple landscape in a very short space of time. And that is in order to just play. Just try that. Do it. Let's take this off. So if you use masking tape and it does seem to pull the paper, it's always a good idea to use a hairdryer, and that will help to soften the glue. I would probably like to add some white detail to the top of the sky, and I will do that later. So I'm not trying to finish this. Oh, there, that's not happy there because it got a bit wet. I'm going to leave the paper. I'm going to leave the masking tape there. It's not happily pulling it off there. It's damaging the paper. That was fine. So you get the idea of just working in a block. Okay, next, let's do another one. Let's see, that's a small one. What I'm going to do here is going to make a brown surface underneath it. And you can see the difference between doing this with a say paintbrush is that you have unintended marks. I quite like that. I like the fact that you have marks that are accidental, that you get because of using the block. I have a green one here as well. I'm going to use that as well. These are these VersaFine Clay blocks. I'm not so sure about that. That looks like it could do with a bit of filling in, but I quite like the texture. And immediately it creates a kind of atmosphere for you to build on. And it happened very quickly and very easily. And these are clouds. So let's see what I can do. I just grabbed this, which is a flint stone, which I picked up in France recently, and I want to do some contour lines with this. So I'm going to incorporate contour lines. And I've got a friend, we just came back from South Africa, and she's moving house, and she's got a lot of rocks, and I always collect rocks as well. And she was getting rid of some of them, and I got this one. And so I adopted this one. It's a beautiful smooth pebble, and I'm going to see how this can be used as a contour as well. But let's start with this one. So I'm going to get a pencil, a brown pencil, and let's see here. This pencil might be darker than I intended. It is actually, it says dark indigo, so it's quite a dark brown, but I'm just going to play with that. The objective is to play. Just don't worry about it. It is just a sketch in a sketchbook. As you see, the paper isn't precious. This is just a regular book that can take little light wash, but it's not even watercolor paper. And what that also does, it absolves the need to create something that is a precious artwork, but it gives you the space to play and discover something that maybe otherwise you wouldn't. I really, really, I cannot stress this enough. This is something that I create these backgrounds, and then I will watch TV, or I just have it with me, or when I meet up with somebody and sit in a coffee shop, or just having a chat, I will sit and color these in and add marks and do um, more landscapes. And sometimes I give it to other people um, to draw on, to doodle with. It really is a fun way to to bring in a little bit of something that's different to what you might otherwise think of as a sketchbook. So you don't even have to use watercolor and fill in the color first. Just the these ink pads. And the funny thing is, I I didn't think of this as all in this way, but it really does look a bit like a sort of African savanna where I've just been. That was not the intention. I'm just adding color and toning it down. I'll add a bit more green. This green I haven't used very much at all. Let's see what it's called. It is called grass green. How weird is that? That is one of the colors in the prompt. I find it quite a strong green. Maybe it's a bit harsh, but I'm going to use it in any case because it was actually where we were. The grass was very, very green because it had a lot of rain. And now I've got this foreground with the grass. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it a little bit of texture. I'm going to make these rhythmic patterns like grass. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Then I do something on top of it. If I need to then collage over it, then I can go and collage over it. It is just something where I'm playing. But I wanted to incorporate a bit of rhythmic lines, patterns. We'll use a different color, green as well. It looks a little bit like a lawn because it's so perfectly edged there. I will break it up a little bit more, but I'm going to do about 5 that's similar. Then there's different line, slightly different line. Okay. I've got this very bright green as well, like a spring green. And I can use it as a background. And if I then want to, I can tone it down if I feel I want to bring that into I want to make the painting a bit more cohesive. I can also bring in a brighter color on top of the brown that I already have. And I will now work in these blocks. They're kind of a block of color, and it looks like a kind of farmland. And I allow the process, I allow what I see to guide me. This comes from my imagination, and whatever happens, this looks like a landscape. It doesn't not look like a landscape. So I hope that gives you some ideas about, you'll get some ideas about possibilities and what you can do. So I'm toning down the blue a bit. All the pencils I'm using here, apart from the ink tints, is luminance. It's Caran d'Ache. You can use any pencil you have. I just have a liking for Caran d'Ache. It's just a really lovely soft pencil to work in. So I'm creating some areas for these little clouds to sit in. Almost echoing what's in the landscape. It's like different color blues. And I want to bring in some white as well. Let's see. It's the white that I have. This is actually a buff. It's not quite white, but it's a buff. But there you see it's sort of a soft white color, so accentuating the clouds that are already there. And then, let's see. I've got this light olive. That's an ink tint, so that's a pencil that will dissolve. If I add water to it, it will become a softer, not so much a softer color, but it will become more like watercolor. The color might become more intense. Let's see. See what happens if I add just a bit of water on top of it. You see, the color becomes a bit more intense. And this is a mix of the luminance and the ink tint. So here it will dissolve. And there, if I would probably make some specific lines like that. Let's see what happens when I add water here. You see the subtle shift that I get there. That nothing's going to happen there because it's a regular pencil, or I mean the luminance pencil that's not meant to dissolve. Okay, I think it needs something else. And see what I can do. What else do I have with me? I'm going to add a little bit of blue in the landscape just to link it a bit. Not too much, but just a little bit so that the eye may look like water that's reflected. Oh, it's a bit too damp there. Not going to work. And then what I want to do is I've got the little hillock there that I've done there. I'm going to give it another one, add another one in the distance. And then I'm going to create a fence. And I think maybe there should be some trees or shrubs. The idea of something maybe growing there. So what I'm using here is a black Inktense pencil. It's called the Ink Black. And I am not so mad about what I've just done there because it looks like a rock. It doesn't look like a shrub. How I'm going to get it lighter, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but there's a way to find out. I'm just going to add a bit of white gouache. If you've seen my demos before, you know I really like mixing gouache, like a white designer gouache, which is a really opaque gouache. I like mixing it into watercolor in particular to create tints. Now I've got this bit of a grey mousse. Doesn't matter. It's just one more layer. And what I can do now, with it being wet and slightly with the white added, it lightens it up again. I'm going to make it green again with the Inktense block. And then I'll go back to the black and I'll give it some indication of like not a trunk, but like a stem and branches to give it some meaning. It's not quite damp at the top. What I would have liked to do is to differentiate it a bit more. I probably have to wait until it's drier to do that properly. One way of doing that is to draw this more in the foreground, but it's quite saturated now. So that's all fine and well using a paper it's not really a watercolor paper, but it's got its limits. And you'll probably find that it's gone a little bit through onto the other side. Not so much. So I'm going to let this one dry for a second, and let's move on. And now I'm going to go do the same thing again, and I'm just going to create. I'm going to try not to mix my material so much, my medium. So there I've got my first line. And I'm just drawing with this pencil, which is the luminance pencil. What I'm going to do is to see what happens if I take that contour and I just make more of that, just make more of the line that I've got there already. I'm spacing them out a little bit more towards the front. And that's another kind of landscape that will appear. And then what I'm going to do is take the green I had before with the Inktense block, and I'm going to wet it. And what happens here is the Inktense dissolves. The original brown lines are from a luminance pencil. That's just a regular pencil. So that doesn't dissolve. And I get this mix between the two. I can add a little bit more, can give it a bit more, make it a bit more saturated with the green. And then while that dries a bit, I can add some white. And I'm going to do, again, sort of like almost like a line and contour, simple, do it in a simple way, and see if I can get it to still look like a sky, maybe with some clouds in it. So again, just a simple design. Let's go back to what I've done before. I probably could do with using a hairdryer just to blot it a bit, or to dry it a bit, but I don't want to do it. I don't want this yellow there, so I'm going to try and gently pull it off. A bit of damage there onto the paper, but you get the idea. Now, with it being a bit drier, I can still add color to it, texture to it. Ooh, it's still a bit damp. It's not happy. Once it's dry, it will allow me to work on it again. So I hope this gives you get some ideas from what I've been doing here, and that it that just give you some options. You don't have to overthink something like a landscape. Let me see here. I have those little brown marks, and I will probably not be able to take it out, so I have to work with it. I just noticed this again as I open this page. So I'm just going to block that in. This is supposedly like a shrub in front of it, and I'm just making a few more marks to indicate that. like a shrub thing there. And what I can also do as an alternative is to make it a bit darker behind it. Let's see if that will work. It's gone in a slightly different direction because now I've got the light in the foreground, making it a bit darker, and I've got this little light spot there. I've got this funny green here. I'm going just to make it a bit less saccharine, little bit less sweet green. Let's see what happens when I add water to it. Still not overly mad about the grey there, but I need to wait for it to dry before I can do anything on there much. This still looks a bit boring. It needs to get something else added to it. But I've started with the contours, and now I can maybe create some flat areas. I don't mind the fact that it has those contour lines on it. I can now reduce them should I wish to, or just create some other or lines in a different direction that will move the eye in a different way. Maybe bigger ones in the front and then smaller at the back. I feel it could do with in a place with some trees as well. One way to do this is to actually cut up paper and just place it on top of it and see what happens. See if that will work. You don't have to commit to drawing something on it straight away. What happens when I do this is it gives you a sense of size and scale and how far that is from you. Kind of these tall trees. Not sure. I think I'll come back to that and work on that again. So in the space of basically half an hour, I started with this one, worked on this one, and no, started on the small one. And that is it for playing with a landscape, the idea of a landscape. I just want to add this as well, just say this as well, because sometimes what I like to do is just to clean a brush, or just make marks on a paper as well, and this can then lead to more. You can then turn that into a landscape or other painting later on. But it's nice. I really, really love working on paper that has some marks on it already. It takes away some of the almost the anxiety of what you have to, that what blank canvas, what you're going to put on it, and or the blank paper. Let's see if I've got some more drawings to show you. Let's see what else I have to. Just I don't have another other sketch because you're asking it out loud. I have ones in. I've got a watercolor paper, so just I have a little bit more time. I'm going to do one on watercolor paper. It's just a cardi paper, so it's not a size paper, but I should be able to get a different effect from the sketchbook. And let's just try that out. I'm going to do it in this direction, and I'm just going to make some lines. You can see the texture of the paper is quite different. I'm going to do work with that paintbrush. It will give let's put a lot of water on it. Then for the sky, that I don't like as much because of, you can see the little marks on it. Not so keen on that. The little marks has been put down. I don't hate it, but I probably don't like it that much. So I'm going to add a bit of white to it to make it a bit more opaque. Maybe make some little impromptu clouds to block it off. So this is going to be maybe a 10-minute painting. I'm not trying to overthink. When we use the colors of the palette, I want to do what I've done before with the lines being the sort of rhythmic pattern being incorporated. When you try different material and work with it together, you will learn and you will see how you can push material. So this was the white designer gouache that I added, and it makes the watercolor more opaque, a little bit thicker, and I really quite like it to then work into. So that was the Inktense color basic. I added the gouache. This is just a water-based gouache on top, and now I am sort of mixing it around with an Inktense pencil. You can see I create this sort of textured area. Because it's wet, the pigment moves and shifts. It dissolves. And what I really like is that white cloud sitting in the blue sky. So I'm going to try not to disturb that too much. And now for once, I'm actually going to try and make a kind of a tree that I'm happy with. In the process, I just broke my Inktense pencil. But I've got another one. Just do that. I think I'm not so mad about the black that I'm using there, but it will have to work for now. Oh, that looks like a kind of a mountain. I really want to make it more like a tree. So if I create that with the trunk of the tree, that obviously makes it look different, and it makes it look more obviously like a tree. Or like a copse, like a collection of trees. I like that there's that light bit there. To me, it looks like sort of sun shining, breaking through there. So I'm going to try not to break that, but bring in some subtle color variation. So while it's wet, I can shift the paint around. I'm going to get this soft wash look. And I'm just going to let that be. So that's the other thing that's good to remember is to time yourself. So something where you have blue at the top that looks like the blue sky. Give it a bit more variety by having a cloud or clouds or just variety in the blue, and then having the landscape in the forefront, adding some trees, adding some more detail And that's enough. That's enough to work as a study, as a little thumbnail study. You can see it's not too big. And I hope that will help to give you some ideas. I'm going to stop now. And for everybody who is a contributing subscriber, I've got a special little project coming up that's using the ink pads, but a different process. So watch your space. In the next day, I'll post a special project just for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'd love to see what you do. So post in the Facebook group if you belong to it. You're welcome to join, or if on social media, tag me or @ Coloricombo. I'd love to see what you do. Okay, thank you for your time, and keep on creating. It's good for you. Bye-bye.